I thought Americans despised tea.
Some of us never drink anything but tea. Would you like to join me?
Thank you. Perhaps just for a fraction of a moment.
It's certainly a terrible day out.
You were at choir practice. I saw you.
I certainly had been. I had heard your voice singing separately from the others. You have a very fine voice.
I know. I'm going to be a professional singer.
Really? Opera?
Heavens no. I'm going to sing jazz on the radio and make heaps of money. Then, when I'm 30, I shall retire and live on a ranch in Ohio. Do you know Ohio?
There's some mighty rough country around Ohio.
I know. An American I met told me. You're the 11th American I've met. You go to that secret intelligence school in the hill, don't you?
I was visiting Devonshire for my health.
Really? I wasn't quite born yesterday, you know.
I bet you haven't been at that.
You seem quite intelligent for an American.
That was a pretty snobbish thing to say if you thought about it at all. That I hoped it was unworthy of you.
Well, most of the Americans I've seen act like animals. They're forever punching one another about and insulting everyone, and you know what one of them did? One of them threw an empty whiskey bottle through my aunt's window. Fortunately, the window was open. But does that sound very intelligent to you?
Many soldiers all over the world were a long way from home, and that a few of them had many real advantages in life. Most people could figure that out for themselves.
Possibly. My hair is soaking wet. I look like a fright. I have quite wavy hair when it's dry.
I can see that. I can see you have.
Not actually curly, but quite wavy. Are you married?
I am.
Are you deeply in love with your wife, or am I being too personal?
When you are, I'd speak up.
Usually I'm not terribly gregarious. I purely came over because I thought you looked extremely lonely. You have an extremely sensitive face.
You're right. I've been lonely. So I'm very glad you came over.
I'm training myself to be more compassionate. My aunt says I'm a terribly cold person. I live with my aunt. She's an extremely kind person. I live with my aunt. She's an extremely kind person. Since the death of my mother, she's done everything within her power to make Charles and me feel adjusted.
I'm glad.
My mother was an extremely intelligent person, quite sensuous in many ways. Do you find me terribly cold?
Absolutely not. Very much to the contrary, in fact.
My first name is Esme. I don't think I should tell you my full name for the moment. I have a title, and you may just be impressed by titles. Americans are, you know.
Miss Migley wants you to finish your tea. Why do people in films always kiss sideways?
Sideways? Oh, it's because the actors' noses are too big, so they can't kiss head on.
His name is Charles. He's extremely brilliant for his age.
That's why his eyes are green.
They're orange.
Orange?
Sometimes he's brilliant and sometimes he's not. Charles, stop it! He misses our father very much. He was SLAIN in North Africa.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Father adored him. He looks very much like my mother. Charles, I mean. I look exactly like my father. My mother was quite a passionate woman. She was an extrovert. Father was an introvert. They were quite well mated, though in a superficial way. To be quite candid, father really needed more of an intellectual companion than mother was. He was an extremely gifted genius. Stop that. He saw an American do it in a fish and chips queue, and now he does it whenever he's bored. Just stop it now, or I shall send you directly to Miss Meagley.
Maybe he ought to save it. I mean, the Bronxshire, till he starts using his title regularly. That is, if he had a title too.
You have a dry sense of humor, haven't you? Father said I have no sense of humor at all. He said I was unequipped to meet life because I have no sense of humor.
I don't think a sense of humor was any use in a real pinch.
Father said it was.
Your father had probably taken the long view while I was taking the short.
Charles misses him exceedingly. He was an exceedingly lovable man. He was extremely handsome too. Not that one's appearance matters greatly, but he was. He had terribly penetrating eyes for a man who was intrinsically kind.
I imagine your father had quite an extraordinary vocabulary.
Oh yes, quite. He was an archivist. Amateur, of course.
What did one wall say to the other? It's a riddle.
I give up.
Meet you at the corner. So, dude.
Now stop that. He tells the same riddle to everyone he meets and has a fit every single time. Usually he drools when he laughs. Now just stop, please.
It's one of the best riddles I've heard, though.
May I inquire how you were employed before entering the army?
I hadn't been employed at all. I've been out of college for about a year, but I think of myself as a professional short story writer.
Published?
Most editors in America were a bunch.
My father wrote beautifully. I'm saving a number of his letters for posterity.
Did that belong to your father?
Yes, it did. He gave it to me just before Charles and I were evacuated. Purely as a memento, of course. I'd be extremely flattered if you'd write a story exclusively for me sometime. I'm an avid reader.
I silly would if I could. I'm not terribly prolific.
It doesn't have to be terribly prolific, just so that it isn't childish and silly. I prefer stories about squalor.
About what?
Squalor. I'm extremely interested in squalor.
Ah.
What did one wall say to the other?
You asked him that already. Now stop.
What did one wall say to the other?
Meet you at the corner?
He's furious. He has a violent temper. My mother had a propensity to spoil him. My father was the only one who didn't spoil him. Il faut que je parte aussi. Do you know French?
I've enjoyed your company.
I thought you might. I'm quite communicative for my age. I'm dreadfully sorry about my hair. I've probably been hideous to look at.
Not at all, as a matter of fact. I think a lot of the wave is coming back already.
Do you think you'll be coming here again in the immediate future? We come here every Saturday after choir practice.
I'd like nothing better but that, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure I won't be able to make it again.